Hello, all my dear student friends. Welcome to the study of the subject Power Engineering and Refrigeration. We are studying the second topic IC engine testing. So, we are interested in practically testing the IC engine so as to find out the values of the various engine performance parameters. So, though we are testing the engine practically, so that we can find the values of the engine performance parameters, because we are going to judge the engine performance based on the values of the engine performance parameters. So, we are going to estimate the values of the engine performance parameters after the practical test or the trial which will be conducted on the engine. So, for the estimation of these engine performance parameters, we may take several readings, then we may do some calculations, and ultimately we are going to find the values of the engine performance parameters, and then we can say something about the performance of the engine. But for this purpose, first of all, in the theory class, it is necessary to define and to describe these engine performance parameters. So, let us study these engine performance parameters one by one. So, these are the engine performance parameters which we are going to study. We are going to study the indicated power, brake power, then the frictional power, mechanical efficiency, thermal efficiency, relative efficiency, volumetric efficiency, brake specific fuel consumption we are going to study. In short, we call it as BSFC. So, BSFC is nothing but brake specific fuel consumption. Indicated thermal efficiency and brake thermal efficiency we are going to study. We are also going to define the relative efficiency. So, the relative efficiency based on indicated power and the relative efficiency based on the brake power also we are going to define. So, we are going to start with the indicated power. What is indicated power? So, indicated power is the power produced inside the engine cylinder due to the combustion of the fuel. So, we know that the combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder. So, due to that, some power is produced inside the engine cylinder. So, that power is called as the indicated power. Mathematically, indicated power, it is denoted as IP. So, it is given by this equation PMLAN. So, P and M is the suffix. So, PM is nothing but the mean effective pressure. PM is nothing but the mean effective pressure. L is the stroke length of the engine. Then A is the area of the piston, and NR is the number of explosions or the effective cycles per second. So, in 1 second, how many times explosion takes place, how many times the spark is produced, and how many times the fuel combustion or the ignition of the fuel takes place, or how many effective cycles are there in the engine per second, that is nothing but NR. So, indicated power is equal to PMLAN. Now, if N is the RPM of the crankshaft, then we can find the value of NR in terms of N, that is the RPM of the crankshaft, but this relation between N and NR is different for different types of engines. For example, for a 2-stroke and a single acting engine, NR is equal to N upon 60. Since N is the RPM, revolutions per minute, therefore we are dividing it by 60. And since it is a 2-stroke cycle engine, that means 2 strokes equal to 1 revolution of the engine. So, in 1 revolution we get 1 power stroke. So, 1 effective cycle is equal to 1 revolution. Therefore NR is equal to N upon 60. This 60 is because this capital N is the RPM, revolutions per minute, and NR is the effective cycles per second. So this is per second and this is per minute, and therefore we are dividing by 60. But since this is a 2-stroke engine and a single acting engine, then you will find that the number of explosions or the effective cycles is equal to the number of revolutions per minute or per second. Now if we have the 2-stroke double acting engine is that engine in which the combustion takes place on both the sides of the piston. So in double acting engine you will find that the number of explosions are doubled as compared to the single acting engine. So we are multiplying this by 2. So the effective cycles or the number of explosions are twice the single acting engine. So in this case now NR is equal to 2N upon 60. So that is the value of NR in case of the 2-stroke double acting engine. Now if you are having the 4-stroke single acting engine, and if you compare with the 4-stroke single acting engine with the 2-stroke single acting engine, here you can see that in 4-stroke single acting engine you will find that you get 1 power stroke in 4 strokes, that is 2 revolutions. So 4 strokes is equal to 2 revolutions. So in 2 revolutions of the engine you get 1 effective cycle or 1 explosion, and therefore the number of effective cycles are half the number of revolutions. So the effective cycles are less, the revolutions are more. So when 2 revolutions are there, we get 1 effective cycle, and therefore the effective cycle or the is equal to half the RPM, and this 60 is because this is the RPM, this is the revolutions per minute, and this NR is in per second, that is explosions or effective cycles per second. Now if it is a 4-stroke double acting engine, then you will find that the number of explosions are again doubled, therefore this 2 is cancelled, and again we get NR is equal to N upon 60. So the number of the explosions is equal to the number of revolutions in case of 4-stroke double acting engine. Now we can write this formula in a different way. There is one more way of writing this formula. Here in the formula itself we can divide by 60. So if we divide by 60 in the formula itself, then we have to change the definition of NR. So NR becomes explosions or effective cycles per minute. Instead of per second, we take it as per minute, so that these equations will become simpler. So this revolutions per minute, RPM means revolutions per minute, and at the same time these explosions or effective cycles are also taken in per minute. But here we have to, in the equation itself, in the equation of indicated power itself, we have to divide by 60. And in case of the 2-stroke single acting engine, now we get NR is equal to N. For a 2-stroke double acting engine, we get NR is equal to 2N, because double acting means the number of effective cycles are doubled. So this NR, number of explosions or number of effective cycles are doubled, that is equal to 2N. Now for 4-stroke engine, these effective cycles are half the RPM. So NR is equal to N by 2, because in 2 revolutions we are getting 1 effective cycle and the engine is single acting engine. But if the engine is double acting, though it is 4-stroke, but if it is double acting, then this NR becomes equal to N. So in this way we have to find the value of NR. We can't take directly NR equal to N. It depends upon the type of the engine, and it depends upon the formula how we are using, whether you are taking this NR per minute or per second. So both the cases I have shown you. So you should fix yourself to one formula so that there is no confusion in this 60 and this nr is equal to 2n or n by 2 or nr is equal to n. There should be no confusion. So you should get clarified all these things on your own. Now let us define the brake power. Brake power is the useful power available at the crankshaft. So whatever is the useful power, the power output at the crankshaft, which is the actual power which is present at the output of the crankshaft and which is useful, that power is nothing but the brake power. So all the power which is produced inside the engine cylinder will not be available at the crankshaft, will not be useful, and therefore this power is less than the indicated power. The brake power is always less than the indicated power. So we have the formula to find the brake power. Brake power is equal to 2 pi nt upon 60. So this n is nothing but the rpm of the crankshaft, t is the torque of the crankshaft, and this is the formula for the brake power. So actually this brake power is the product of resisting torque T. T is nothing but the resisting torque, this T. So that is the resisting torque multiplied by the angular speed. So you know the angular speed omega is equal to 2 pi n upon 60. So 2 pi n upon 60 is the angular speed and that is multiplied by T. So brake power is the product of resisting torque T and the angular speed, which is 2 pi n upon 60, and therefore we get the formula for brake power as 2 pi nt upon 60. Now the frictional power is the difference of the indicated power and the brake power. We have seen that the indicated power for the engine is more than the brake power, and the difference between the indicated power and the frictional brake power is nothing but the frictional power. The difference between indicated power and brake power is the frictional power. So since a lot of power, a sufficient amount of power is lost in overcoming the friction and some other losses which take place inside the engine or the various moving parts of the engine, you will find that the brake power is always less than the indicated power, and the amount by which the brake power is less than the indicated power is equal to the frictional power. So some power is lost in overcoming the friction between the moving parts and which are in contact, for example the piston and cylinder, then the valves and the valve seat, and the various power transmission devices, maybe gears or the belts. So in friction some power is lost. Some power is lost as the pumping loss, because power is produced during the power stroke or the expansion stroke, but for the other strokes actually power is required. For suction stroke power is required, that is pumping loss is there during the suction stroke. During the compression stroke also, for compressing the charge some power is required. Then during the exhaust stroke also, in order to drive out the exhaust gases out of the engine cylinder, some power is required, and that is nothing but the pumping loss. Some power is required to drive the accessories. There are some accessories in the engine. We have to charge the battery, and the battery is driving certain accessories, maybe the music system, and there are so many other accessories which are present in the engine. Even the automatic transmission and the so many automatic devices are there which will be operated by the engine, and they are using the power of the engine. So that will also consume the power. So due to all these reasons, you will find that the brake power is always less than the indicated power. Then the mechanical efficiency is again the ratio of brake power and indicated power. So brake power upon indicated power is nothing but the mechanical efficiency. So again the indicated power is equal to PM LA NR. PM is the mean effective pressure, L is the stroke length, A is the area of piston, NR is the number of explosions or effective cycles per second, the brake power is equal to 2 pi nt upon 60. Brake power is the product of resisting torque and angular speed. Then the frictional power is equal to indicated power minus brake power. The mechanical efficiency is the ratio of brake power and indicated power. So all these parameters at a glance we have seen, and now let us go ahead to define the thermal efficiency of the engine. So the thermal efficiency of the engine is the ratio of the heat equivalent of power developed by the engine to the heat supplied by the combustion of fuel in the engine. So what is the power developed by the engine? Heat equivalent of that power developed by the engine, that is the numerator. In the denominator we are writing the heat supplied by the combustion of the fuel in the engine. So the heat which is supplied by the combustion of the fuel in the engine all may not be utilized for producing power. Some heat is wasted. So this wastage should be minimized. But this defines that how much energy is converted into power, how much heat energy is converted into mechanical power, that defines the thermal efficiency. And therefore thermal efficiency is the ratio of the heat equivalent of the power developed by the engine to the heat supplied by combustion of fuel in the engine. Relative efficiency is the ratio of thermal efficiency to the air standard efficiency in the same temperature range. So our engine is giving some thermal efficiency. Now this thermal efficiency is never 100%, but this thermal efficiency is not even equal to the air standard efficiency. So the air standard efficiency is the standard maximum efficiency which can be obtained. So how much we are lagging from the air standard efficiency, that can be defined by the relative efficiency by taking the ratio of our thermal efficiency of our engine and the air standard efficiency, that means the efficiency of the standard cycle. Generally we can take the Carnot cycle and we can call the Carnot efficiency as the air standard efficiency, because we have seen that the Carnot cycle gives the maximum performance and the maximum efficiency in a particular temperature range. So this efficiency, standard efficiency, also changes with the temperature range. So for a particular temperature range, the standard efficiency or the Carnot efficiency is having a fixed value. So if the temperature range changes, then only the standard efficiency will change. So the standard efficiency will not change until unless the temperature range changes. So we have to compare the thermal efficiency with the standard efficiency for the same temperature range, then only the comparison has some value. Otherwise the comparison is not useful. Now let us define the volumetric efficiency of the engine. Volumetric efficiency is defined as the ratio of the actual volume of the charge admitted. What is the actual value of the charge admitted? The engine is having some stroke volume, but the charge which is admitted inside the engine cylinder may not be equal to the stroke volume. So it may be less than the stroke volume, and this volume has to be calculated at standard conditions of temperature and pressure. So the volumetric efficiency is defined as the ratio of actual volume of the charge admitted during suction stroke at NTP condition. So charge is admitted during the suction stroke. What is the actual volume of that charge? But this volume may change depending upon the condition of temperature and pressure. If temperature changes, volume changes. If pressure changes, volume changes. Of course the mass will not change. So the mass of the volume of the same mass of the charge will change depending upon the values of temperature and pressure, and therefore we have to take the NTP condition we have to take some standard values of temperature and pressure, and that we call as the NTP condition, means normal temperature pressure condition. So the volumetric efficiency is defined as the ratio of actual volume of the charge admitted during suction stroke at NTP condition to the swept volume of the piston. Theoretically, it is expected that the charge which should be admitted inside the engine cylinder should be equal to the swept volume of the piston. But it is not the practical case. Practically, the charge which is admitted is less than the swept volume of the piston at NTP conditions. So what do you mean by NTP condition? NTP condition means normal temperature pressure condition. So what is the value of normal temperature and normal temperature? Which is the temperature of 15 degrees centigrade. 15 degrees centigrade temperature is considered, and the pressure which is considered is equal to 1 atmosphere, that is 760 millimeter of mercury. So the temperature is 15 degrees centigrade and the pressure is equal to 1 atmosphere, 760 millimeter of mercury, that is 1.01325 bar. So this is the value of the standard pressure and the standard temperature, or the normal temperature and condition, which define the NTP condition